Hello friends, welcome to episode 129 of Storyteller Conclave. This is a show all about helping you run the best tabletop role-playing game that you can, whether you're a new storyteller or dungeon master learning the craft, or an experienced storyteller looking to take your game to the next level. I'm Sara.
I'm Rob.
And I am so out of breath.
You almost forgot your phone.
So I have my tablet in front of me for our show notes and stuff like that, so we can kind of keep on topic and whatnot. And I have my phone to keep Discord open because we have the live chat for our Patreons for when we broadcast on Wednesday nights on Mixlr, and I left it upstairs
as the final music starts playing.
Yes, the final pre-show music. So I'm like, I don't have my phone. He's like, you have 60 seconds, and I'm like, run! That's a flight of stairs up and down. Made it back with plenty of time, but oof.
Yeah. So, while you're breathing and catching your breath, holy Batman, we got a few new people, a couple new faces in our Discord, which we're happy to hear and see. Ariette 13, I gotta get this. Erte 13. Oginmi. And our last one is Gravy X. So, welcome to the Conclave. I know we usually say the thing, but please join us in our Discord. We love the questions that we get, which we got tons this week. We are very happy to see, and we'd love to have more. We love when people join the Conclave and can give us what they're interested in, can talk about topics, can talk about their games that they're in or that they're running, and just be part of the crew. I mean, we have so much information, and there's so much history out there that we want to share. Mm-hmm. And we want people to be able to come in and be better at storytelling. And
even still, with the breadth and width of the gaming sphere out there, for how many games there actually are out there, like so new many. Blood always adding to our discussions and bringing to light, what was the one Morkborg?
Oh, yeah,
we heard of, I'd never heard of that the other day.
Nope.
New Discord user comes in and is like, oh, yeah, we usually play Morkborg. I'm like, what the heck is Morkborg? I had to look it up. I'm like, this is pretty cool. All right, cool.
Well, and the other thing is that we often forget, our breadth of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who've never seen this book that's on my table.
Yep.
Who've never picked it up or looked at it.
Yep.
And yet, there are parts of their game.
There's a bunch of people who's never seen the book that's under that book.
That's
either.
true.
We have sitting here the AD&D 2nd edition player's handbook.
Yes.
And the Palladium Rifts, 1st edition book.
Yeah, 1st edition Rifts book here. Because they're quintessential to our topic tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the research of this, we missed one key component, which you found tonight in the 2nd edition handbook.
Well, I wouldn't say it was something that was missing, but I was just kind of wondering where the origins of it was from, and I had a sneaking suspicion I knew where it was from, but I didn't have an AD&D 2nd edition book.
That's true.
So if it was the first thing you were like, would you like to see this? And I said, yes, I would. I'm going to look this thing right up because I think I know what this is going to say, and it did, and I'm angry about it.
Yep.
So I will now rant about alignments for the next 40 minutes.
She will. She really will. You should have seen our show note sheet. It was impressive.
This was my show topic.
She paused at one point when getting to chaotic. The word chaotic. It just stopped for a day.
I just needed to breathe.
You see, I'm going to historical stuff. I'm finding reference information. I'm like, what was the differences between 3 and 3.5 and 4 and how different things? No, right to the rant. Now listen here.
That's fine. You want to be all analytical about it and stuff like that. But you forget that this show topic ended up on our sheet because I had a rant one day.
You did.
I was like, why do people insist on playing? For that matter, why do people insist on playing that other alignment like that? No, you know what? This is a show. I'm putting this on the list.
This is a show. So, what we are talking about tonight, in essence, is, and the reason, we'll get back to the term lawful stupid. If you are unfamiliar with that, we will clarify that cleanly. If you are familiar with it, maybe you're not thinking about it the right way.
Oh, we'll get there.
So, alignment. Alignment is used in a bunch of different systems. D&D is the big one that everybody recognizes it in, but Palladium used alignment.
Mm-hmm. I guess Warhammer Fantasy does.
Yes,
too?
Warhammer Fantasy does have alignment.
I'm not familiar with the system, but
Even to a lesser degree, some other systems use it, but they don't use the term alignment necessarily. They talk about it as far as your morals or your direction. Shadowrun doesn't have it at all, but it uses in the 20 questions kind of a way to give you a guidepost through that.
Sure.
Because they're way more fluid. And other games outright don't even discuss alignment. They just discuss who your character is and help you define it without it. So alignment was a system to help describe the moral leanings of a character. Now, D&D early on used this in a strictly mechanical sense for half of it. The idea of good, neutral, and evil. Those were hard and fast rules because they wanted to know who was good and who was evil and why.
Yep.
And then lawful, neutral, and chaotic were also used in a mechanical sense to a lesser degree that then eventually became more and more of one. But as we've drifted from using them in a tactical sense because they were descriptors that helped role play and mechanics meet at a certain point.
Yeah.
It's more of a guideline to help you role play, which I think is really what it should be in the first place. But I guess the real question is what makes alignment a good idea? You know? I think the biggest thing that I can say is that it allows people who are unfamiliar with roleplay, who are unfamiliar even with theatrics, help them figure out a framework for handling what your character versus what you would do, breaking that line. And giving you some kind of guidance for that.
I've always been kind of a fan of alignment, but I've never liked that it's had mechanical impact, I guess.
The way D&D embedded it?
Exactly. Like, I was very comfortable with Palladium having alignment, because Palladium never asks you to qualify your alignment against a skill.
Correct.
You know, like, I'm not going to hit you with a spell that's only going to do damage if you're, unprincipled alignment or something like that, you know.
Right.
Whereas D&D very flagrantly used it in a lot of their editions. So, like, 3.5, 3 and 3.5, I know, used it very heavily.
4 used it to a degree.
I can't speak to 2nd edition and earlier.
It did.
I only played 2nd edition a very little bit, and I really didn't like it, so I strayed away from it.
Yeah, 2nd edition did have applications for it. 1st edition sort of did, if I remember correctly. It was not as... Well, it was mechanical, definitely.
Yeah,
but I think 2nd edition
though,
was where it came in.
Elf was a class in in 1st edition, though.
Yes.
So, and it was an OP one, as I remember.
But I think one of the things that kind of came through it was the concept of good and evil being defined in a mechanical sense, in almost a thematical sense. And that is that good characters and creatures protect innocent life. Evil characters and creatures debase and destroy innocent life.
Yes.
That's the simplistic terms of it at that level. You have your good, which implies altruism, a respect for life, a concern for the dignity of sentient beings. Good characters can make personal sacrifices to help others.
Right.
Simple.
And then, of course, evil, the exact opposite. It's going to imply hurting, oppressing is another big thing, killing others. Some evil creatures, have absolutely no compassion. They kill without any qualms for doing so if it's convenient to them, or even just for fun, or for even sport.
Yeah.
And some of them even follow like evil deities and stuff like that, like Grumpsh. And things like that, like the evil god of orcs and such like that.
And what was interesting about it was that it was a definition that was hard sold in 3.5 as that. Like this is a cut and dry kind of a thing. As they shifted into 4th edition, alignments started looking at a more of a breakdown. They went into they kind of focused on the aspect of 9, where you had good and lawful good and evil and chaotic evil and just unaligned. And this kind of started creating framework that was shifted that vision a little bit. In the sense that now you still had your hard and fast on good and evil, and that there were good deities and evil deities that defined mechanics behind them, that if I have a good deity that I follow as a cleric and there's another good deity, he's on the same team I'm on.
Right.
I may not agree with all of their belief structure, but if we're both going after something together, we're doing it as a unified force of good.
And when you look at D&D's origins and existence as kind of a tactical combat simulator, basically, where a lot of your adventures just involve you like grabbing a bunch of swords and armor and going into a dungeon and just killing a bunch of things and stealing the treasure.
Right.
You have to understand that the conception of playing D&D as a social experience is kind of a modern thing. A lot of people have been playing it that way, all along. We've all been telling elaborate stories, and I'm not saying you can't tell elaborate stories with D&D. God knows I've done it myself, but as a heavily combative game where the expectation is that the action's going to be driven at the point of a sword, knowing who it's okay to kill and who it's not is a clearly defined good and evil, white and black, one side of the line and the other is almost crucial to the setup of the game.
Yeah.
Because otherwise then you bring in a bunch of moral ambiguity and suddenly a game about killing your way to the treasure becomes a lot more questionable.
Yeah, and
you don't feel so good about doing it anymore.
Yeah, I think 5th edition kind of broke it down into a much more clean line between the two of them, which was one identified morality and the other identified societal and order definitions. And I think by saying that you're defining morality, that's when when it got recognized, as people started saying, oh, now this is morally different, and that's how we're doing things. So I think that for a mechanical game like D&D, it was an interesting, for lack of a better term, experiment.
Yeah.
That's gone semi-successfully. Yeah. But I think your point that you make about what was written in the 2nd edition player's handbook specifically.
Yeah, let me.
And I'm gonna let you look that back up. I got the tabbed out there for you. But I distinctly believe that right there, that concept is still pervasive to this day and defines how people play their characters, tells me that that it was not as successful as they wanted it to be.
Yeah, I think even people who have never really picked up the 2nd edition AD&D book, a lot of them I think still learned from their elders who had. And so I think even if you didn't get it directly from the book, I think a lot of people still got these sort of attitudes from just word of mouth through tribal knowledge,
Yep.
And so what I want to read here is the entry for chaotic neutral. Again, this is the 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Player's Guide.
So many moon come Shakta.
And it says, and I'll skip a little bit here, but it says, chaotic neutral characters are extremely difficult to deal with. Such characters have been known to cheerfully and for no apparent purpose gamble away everything they have on the roll of a single die. They're almost totally unreliable. In fact, the only reliable thing about them is they cannot be relied upon. This alignment is perhaps the most difficult to play. Lunatics and madmen tend towards chaotic neutral behavior. That's not an alignment. That is delusional insanity.
Correct. And it's the way that they describe it, the fact that you will toss everything away on the roll of a die, that's a gambler. That's a risk taker.
A compulsive gambler.
Right. That doesn't talk about your morality.
That guy needs therapy.
That does talk about your attitude towards society necessarily or yourself. But I think it painted a picture at the time of what they believed. And that has now clearly carried itself over in definition. Yeah. Like, we can honestly say that we know people today who use the term chaotic neutral to be that.
Yes.
To be that wild card.
Completely insane, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the definition that makes it challenging, because now you have players who are choosing that are, not should I say choosing, are defining it in their own mind what each one of the 9 mean to them and what that represents versus what the storyteller sees actively going on and making decisions behind that.
Yep.
we always talk about murder hobos as it's a common thing. The group always ends up turning into murder hobos that are chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make the entire group lawfully ambiguous and chaotic, if not slightly evil?
Probably.
But they would say that they're good people because they're doing good things morally.
Sure, they're killing and looting and murdering the evil guys, or at least the people that they believe are evil.
That's right.
Most of the time. Yeah, I mean, it's... Whether or not you think that alignment was successful or useful, I suppose is a big gray area, honestly. And I think you could argue it in circles constantly.
100%.
There's a lot of good things that come out of it, but again, I think my line in the sand was tying mechanical things to it, because there's so many things about morality that are gray areas.
Yes.
What is moral to one society is not moral to another.
Mm-hmm.
And so who's to say that, like, your actions are ever truly good or evil?
Yeah.
And there are some things that you can definitely say are good or evil, but like where that line of definition is for a lot of people gets drawn in. I mean, you and I across this table probably have different values on a lot of different stuff.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt. I think one of the things that got me was even in 5th edition, I read this. Alignment is an essential part of the nature of celestials and fiends.
Mm-hmm.
A devil does not choose to be lawful evil, and it doesn't tend toward lawful evil, but rather it is lawful evil in its essence. If it somehow ceased to be lawful evil, it would also cease to be a devil.
See, I mean, I'm okay with that.
Right, but that kind of a definition defines what that is in a different way than the original writings even did.
Yeah.
And I think it helps understand that we're saying that a race, an entire race, has a tending to it, which again was carried through. Like there was a time when orcs were always chaotic evil.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if a human was raised among orcs, they would be chaotic evil as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, so you're saying an entire race of people are this.
Yeah.
That's where I think people really started having issue with it.
There's a lot of discourse right now in the D&D community because Wizards of the Coast is trying to actively move away from that line of thinking, and so they're doing a lot of things like with new races that are getting released for the Spelljammer stuff.
Yes.
They're not defining a lot of things like that, or they're defining them differently or more loosely. And there's a lot of people who are a little bit upset with that because there's some very fundamental aspects to certain races that they've put out that they're like, actually, they're just people, and people can be very different. Yeah. And we're not going to clearly define it in the stat block that some people are kind of, some of the old school people are kind of recoiling at.
Well, I mean, even in my game, I have orcs that are basically all, like, effectively good guys.
Yeah, sure.
They took their tribe to a different direction and became a different people. So there's nothing wrong with that, but yet it feels weird at times.
Not really. I mean, I run an Elder Scrolls game. Orcs are a playable race. Orcs always have been a playable race.
But not for you. I remember one of my players at my table were just like, what do you mean? They're not. Orcs are chaotic people.
Oh, no. That was because they came from my homebrew setting, and in my homebrew setting, they're basically Neanderthals. They're like just the far side of sentient. They're angry territorial cavemen is what they are. They barely have language or writing. And the character that you were getting that reaction from came from that setting and bled into your world where they are sentient and honorable and have a whole society. So it's not that a player was giving you that reaction. It's that the character was giving you that reaction.
But that
shows the breadth of the flexibility of just one race of one race of beings,
and shifting away from what is book written. Which I think is a key part of it. Now, it doesn't mean that alignment is a bad thing. I'm not painting this my side of the show out to be that I am against alignment. What I'm against is the definitions that are laid out in books that this is a this and this is a this. Like,
yeah.
I've never been,
Yeah.
and I do not like it being used in a mechanical sense. I think there is a place for that, but I don't think that this in any way is the right way to handle it.
Yeah. Knox in the live chat here is actually kind of hitting it on the head. My problem for decades now with alignment is it says if these concepts are so subjective and or gray, why even bother throwing specific labels and definitions on them? And I think, again, it's just because they wanted to simplify it and codify it so that you could say, it says good on my sheet and evil on the character or the monster stat block. Therefore, I am a good person killing an evil thing. This is an okay act, and I am okay with murdering it, and I don't have to feel bad about it.
Yep.
But... And that's fine if you're running it as a tactical combat game, like D&D has kind of always had in its roots.
Right.
But if you start bleeding into that more like critical role generation of you want to run it as a social game, and you really want to get into like the political and moral and social ramifications of things and stuff like that, and you start to examine the application of alignment in those settings, you start seeing the holes.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very easy to take the moral alignment system and just go, but what if?
Exactly.
And instantly punch a hole in it.
Yeah. Now, I know you want to start punching holes in it a little bit, but
Yeah,
also at the same time, I think it's necessary that we talk about it because I think it is a valuable tool and start point. Because if you're going to play, if I'm going to act out as someone or something else, a framework helps.
No, absolutely.
So I'm thinking we go into the framework. I'm thinking that I'm going to flat out say this. If you want a better framework,
yes,
go grab yourself a Palladium book and look at their alignment system. It is a better definition for framework, without a doubt.
You know what? Hold on.
What?
Let me look up unscrupulous.
Okay, it should be tagged.
Because it is the same technical alignment as
chaotic.
As chaotic neutral. The one that
go.
I read you that was gamble everything away and be a complete lunatic. So let's see here. Selfish. Oh no, it's anarchist. It's anarchist, not unprincipled. Unprincipled is lawful neutral.
Right.
So anarchist, type of character likes to indulge himself in everything. So first off, they don't call them neutral alignments; they call them selfish alignments.
Yes.
Because you're not concerned with doing good by other people. You're looking out for numero uno. You don't necessarily have malice in your heart, but you're looking out for you before you're ever sacrificing anything for another person.
Right.
Okay. So, the type of character likes to indulge himself in everything. He is the insurgent, con man, gambler, and high roller, the uncommitted freebooter seeking nothing more than self-gratification. This character will, at least, consider doing anything if the price is right. These people are intrigued by power, glory, and wealth. Life has meaning, but his has the greatest meaning. Laws and rules infringe on the personal freedom. And were meant to be broken. An anarchist-aligned person is always looking for the best deal and will work with good, selfish, or evil to get it, as long as he comes out on top in the situation.
Yep.
The anarchist is continuously teetering towards good and evil, rebelling and bending the law to fit his needs. Often, mercenaries fall into this category, and we'll talk about that one in a little bit.
Yes.
And then... And this is the reason I think why I like the Palladium system so much. With regards to alignment, is that it then goes on, and does this for every single character alignment, lists out
between
looks
10
like
and...
between 10 and 12 qualifying statements. Anarchist characters may keep his word, maybe, we don't know, lie and cheat if he feels it's necessary. Not likely to kill an unarmed foe, but certainly knock out, attack, beat up an unarmed foe. Will never kill an innocent, but may harm or kidnap one. Not likely to help someone without an ulterior motive, even if it's only to show off. Seldom kills for pleasure. Use torture to extract information, but not likely to torture for pleasure. Probably, they have to have a means to the end, or end to the means, whatever, does not work well in a group. This is the cocky loudmouth who is likely to do as he damn well pleases. Have little respect for self-discipline or authority, and may betray a friend.
Yep. It's clean. It helps you figure out who you are.
Exactly.
And I think that is beautiful. Whereas if you look at the simplistic write-ups, and I'll say simplistic write-ups, they're generalities.
Yeah.
And they do not really give you a whole lot of definition. They do what they believe is best at defining things by using concepts within the system to define it. Celestials, demons, gods, prayers and alms and things like that. But literally, this is talking to the morality of the individual.
Right.
And how that morality is applied within society.
Yeah, it's the concrete examples, which I really like.
Exactly. But most people play D&D.
Most people play D&D.
And most people know the 9.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to tear apart the 9.
All right, let's get angry about alignment here. So, first off, law and chaos.
Oh boy,
is one of my first things here.
It's a good point to hit.
Like good, neutral, evil, pretty easy to understand.
Totally.
I think selfish is better than neutral as far as a descriptor goes, but it's basically focusing on doing right by other people, focusing on doing right by yourself, other people be damned, and to hell with other people.
It's my time, yeah.
Right. But what the heck are law and chaos?
Well, I mean, one speaks to following some sense of order or rules, whether they be personal or existential. I will follow society's guidelines, and sometimes those guidelines are still gray, but set to that person.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up because the word is law, and so they immediately draw the conclusion that you have to follow all of the laws of the land.
Correct.
And that's not really the case. Like, you can absolutely have lawful characters doing things that are completely illegal, hence lawful evil, do it all the time.
Is Batman lawful?
I mean, I think so, but not because he follows the law of the land.
Exactly.
But because he has an honor code.
Correct.
No guns, no killing.
Right.
Things like that. He has a set way he does things, and he does not deviate from it. In fact, he even tries to impose that on other people. I was recently seeing a comic strip where someone had gotten into Wayne Manor, and Alfred pulled out a shotgun with beanbag rounds and just laid him out. And Bruce Wayne sitting there next to him, just like, "You have a gun in the house?" And he's like, "Yeah, buddy, I'm not, like, clad in armor. I'm not the Dark Knight. Yes, I've got a shotgun."
Yeah.
And I also, like, my parents, like, your parents might have been killed by guns, and so therefore you don't like them. They're icky and you won't use them. But my parents weren't killed by guns, so yeah, I got a shotgun. And there are guns stashed all over the manor, and you'll never find them all, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I mean, that's a very lawful behavior. I have a code of honor. I have a personal code that I live up to, personal rules that are self-imposed, and I'm going to follow them. And I expect other people to respect that I follow them, and I kind of expect other people to follow them too.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times we push those into golden rules or higher rules, almost into a good sense.
Yeah.
But there's no rules. There's nothing that sets that in place.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, I like a good lawful villain.
Oh, yeah. No, I love lawful evil.
When you can...
Favorite type of villain.
Yeah, when you can look at a villain and the villain's just like, and you see, you throw down your sword and he's like, "No, pick that up."
Uh-huh.
And you're like, "What?" And you're like, "You will die with a blade in your hand and you will be facing me."
Yes.
Like, that's a rule, right? That's their laws coming out, Or, dear God, we had a discussion about thugs doing things outside of the lawful villain's eyesight, like, "Hey, yeah, I totally killed that that guy's village. We totally got them."
And
you did what?
And then the lawful evil villain strikes him down,
right,
to make an example.
Throws him in the jail and apologizes.
I am so sorry for that inconvenience. I had no idea my henchman had done that. Here, please take this as recompense.
Yeah, I will be sending
and know
support.
that and know that he has been eliminated.
Yes.
And I will not stand for that in my ranks.
That's right.
I made an example of him.
I've shackled him to a cart, and he will be sent to that town, and they can handle him upon their justice. You know, it's like, what? He was your second in command. I don't care if he was my first. You know,
exactly.
We do not handle things that way.
Can we get back to the business of me trying to destroy the world?
That's right. Exactly. But it's having those rule sets that define someone and make them feel real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just their quirks. It's not things like that. And so when we talk about law, that's what we talk about. When we talk about chaos, we're now shifting that to madness, to the ability to just be 100% open about whatever.
Right. And of course, you know, going back to that second edition AD&D thing that I read, you know, it's like you immediately go to like, oh, there it's chaotic, it's madness, it's just, you know, lunacy. No. Just like law does not mean follows of the law of the land, chaos does not mean completely unhinged. With chaos, you're looking at a flexibility. An idea that the rules sometimes get in the way of doing what is right.
Yes.
And need to be tossed aside, need to be circumvented, maybe even need to be actively thwarted.
Yeah.
And honestly, you probably all know somebody like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you know, they're the type of people who, like, if you're starving, do you steal a loaf of bread?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the lawful person may say, no, that's not how we do things. Like, there's a certain level you can't stoop to, even if you're starving of hunger. Like,
right.
You know, you have to find another way. You always have to find another way. Help is out there if you look for it.
Right.
A chaotic person will be like, no, steal the loaf of bread. You need it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, and one of my things that I thought was kind of interesting was somebody said Robin Hood is chaotic.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, they're like, well, but he robs from the rich and gives to the poor. What's Marion? You know, isn't she technically rich? Isn't she one of the wealthy?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is, well, yes. Okay. Why isn't he handling that? Well, because he loves her. Okay, well, that's kind of wishy-washy then. He's kind of picking and choosing when he's robbing from the rich and giving to the poor.
Sure.
So even his personal morals can shift based upon a whim.
Right. But, you know, first off, yes, he's in love with her. Second off, I know in a lot of those tellings of Robin Hood, she is aiding him.
Correct.
So he doesn't need to take her money because she's already aiding his cause. And third off, she's typically not one of the people who is part of the system of oppression. And if you look at his whole mission of rob from the rich and steal from the poor, and just the face value,
right.
using just those words, yeah, it does seem weird. But if you look at it as an extension of disassembling a system of oppression where the rich are oppressing the poor, she's not really part of that system of oppression.
She's an aspect of a side piece.
Yeah. Her having money and being royalty does not necessarily make her part of the oppression.
But in the end, he started at one point and shifted. He became what he was.
Sure.
And I think that is another aspect of it is that many characters start with a certain direction. They might even start in a chaotic sense and start gaining a lawfulness, an order within themselves, things that they will and will not do.
But also, I think your Robin Hood example is another great way of showing the example that, like, none of these alignments are black and white. You know?
They're a guideline.
Yeah, you could sit there and argue and nitpick the nuance of Robin Hood's character and mission all day and be like, what alignment does he fall under? But, like, that's kind of why I feel like alignment is, like, ambiguous. Not a great system.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, at least the 9.
At least those boxes to describe and define the exact behaviors a person will and will not engage in.
Yeah.
So, okay, we talked about law, we talked about chaos. Are we ready to get into Lawful Stupid?
The namesake of the show.
The namesake of the show.
I think we should.
So, okay. Lawful Stupid comes from how people usually play lawful good.
Or paladins in general.
Because they were required to be lawful good and usually are played to be sanctimonious assholes. So, and I have been accused of playing Lawful Stupid before. Just when people heard that Lawful Good was the alignment my character was, everybody at the table rolled their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And no, this is pre seeing how I played the character, right?
Right.
So I wasn't actually playing Lawful Stupid, but that attitude lives on to this day. This is not a relic. This is something I got like 2 months ago. So, how Lawful Good is usually played. Usually a heroic archetype, like a paladin, like we said.
Yes. A beacon of light, if you will.
Insists on everything being pure and good and will not tolerate even the slightest deviance in their presence.
You will not sneak. You will walk up to the front door. You will knock on it, and you will challenge formally and throw your gauntlet down in front of them.
Party rogue, I'm looking at you.
That's
you
right.
Pickpocketed the key to the gate from the guard of the evil castle of the evil villain we're here to thwart.
Mm-mm.
You give that back to him, and also my eye is on you, and also I might smite you for stealing.
Yeah.
We'll fly into and that brings me to the next point. Flies into a murderous rage. Murderous
Yes.
rage
Yes.
at the slightest infraction.
Yep.
Because they're lawful.
Correct.
Kill evil immediately. Aku
All right.
soku zan.
Why is this wrong? What are you doing wrong?
First off, you're not playing a paladin, you're playing a fascist.
That is so true.
That
is so true.
I hate to inform you, but kill anyone who does not fall into my narrow definition of what is good and what is not. Is you're playing a fascist. You're not playing. You're not playing a paladin. Again, lawful does not mean follows the laws without question. It just means a structured way of approaching things. Your paladin's code of honor. Your sworn knightly oaths, the precepts of your divine patron, these are all things that can guide you. These are all ways of thinking, structures of thinking, of approaching problems and stuff like that would make you a lawful character without making you slavishly and unwaveringly, rigidly set in the ways of the law.
Yeah. Murder is not good.
Contrary to popular belief in D&D.
Yeah. Murder is not good. You are literally violating things. Especially not an appropriate thing like cutting off a dude's hand because he pickpocketed someone is not even remotely good.
Not at all. Like, good is about compassion and forgiveness and stuff like that. Like, man, I don't even want to see a lawful good character killing the main villain, honestly. I really don't.
No.
Because the lawful good characters are definitely got to be the ones going like, we can't kill this guy. He's misguided. Let's bring him to justice. Let's put him in jail forever.
Let's give him a chance.
Exactly. Everybody should have a chance at redemption. You
That's
know.
right.
I'm not saying you can't kill.
Right.
I'd prefer to see my lawful good characters having that reaction.
Now, lawful and code of honor. This does not preclude you from being dumb.
Exactly.
You're not using it literally as a flip book that says, there's a bunch of goblins coming into this farm. They look like they're about to kill a cow. Let me look at my code of honor. Let's see, precept 1, give alms to the poor. Nope, not that one. And you read down your list to find out what you do.
Mm-hmm.
No.
All right, so I'm going to address something in the live chat.
All right.
Knox in the box says, he's lawful. Lawful everything. I think it runs the whole gamut. I mean, cutting a hand off might be a lawfully sanctioned punishment. Okay, let's talk about that for a second.
Correct.
It might be a lawfully sanctioned punishment, but so something about the law, and not to get too heavy here, but like, think of Nazi Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Hiding a Jewish person from the Nazis was an unlawful act.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a right act? Absolutely. Saving lives from a fascist, overbearing, murderous government. Absolutely, it was the right thing to do, but it wasn't the lawful thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, cutting off this person's hand for stealing a loaf of bread might be what the law dictates. But is it good? Is it right? Is it compassionate? Are there extenuating circumstances we might look at that this person otherwise would not have been forced to steal? They're not stealing out of malice, they're stealing out of hunger.
Mm-hmm.
If we solve the hunger, we solve the stealing problem. We don't need to cut off their hand to teach them a lesson.
Right.
the lesson isn't that they're a thief. The lesson is that they were starving and just trying to survive.
Plus, the other part of that is that it is unlawful to steal. So you see the boy steal the bread. He takes 4 steps. The paladin grabs him by the scruff of his collar, turns around, sets him down back of the thing, grabs the loaf of bread out of his hands, and hands it back to the baker. He did steal something. That means he should be punished immediately for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does the good paladin put the bread back in the boy's hand and put money in the hand of the baker?
I've got a great example. Les Miserables.
Thank you.
Yes. At the beginning of Les Miserables, Jean Valjean, the main character, is released from prison. He's paroled. But the inspector that put him in there in the first place, I believe, or at least one of the jailers. I don't remember what Javert was to him, but anyways, Javert was the lawman, essentially, who he had a rivalry with from the very beginning. Who has a very black and white way of looking at things, and sees him basically as nothing more than a thief.
He will always be a thief.
You will always be a thief. You cannot be anything else because that is what you are. And Valjean is released from prison, and on his first night of freedom, takes refuge in a church. And in the midst of the night, in his desperation, because he has nothing. He is utterly destitute. He has his freedom and the shirt on his back and nothing else. And because he has been labeled a criminal, and because he's been told this whole time he is nothing more than a criminal, it kind of gets inside of his head. And that very night, he steals all the silver from the church and absconds. Javert, because he had these expectations of what Valjean would do, instantly catches him, because he was basically staking the place out, just waiting for him to mess up.
To do it.
Catches him and brings him back to the church to be accused by the priest. And he holds up the bag full of silver, and he says, hey, I found this man with all of your silver. He stole it from you, didn't he? I just need you to accuse him, and I can haul him back to jail for the rest of his life. And the priest takes one look at this destitute, desperate man and goes, No, that was a gift.
Yeah.
He didn't steal that. In fact, you know what? In your haste, sir, I know you were ready to hit the road and start your life anew. In your haste, you forgot the silverware.
Yeah.
You took the platter and the pitcher and the candlesticks and stuff like that, but you forgot the silverware. Here. And adds more stuff to his loot.
Yep.
And Javert is standing there completely aghast, like, what are you doing? And he's like, take this and make your life better.
Yeah.
Start anew. You can be a better person.
Yeah.
That is the difference between a lawful good and a lawful neutral.
Yep.
I'm not going to say that Javert was lawful evil. He was not.
No, I agree that there's a longer discussion there, but there's a lot more to go over. But I agree that now you've defined that prince.
But
that priest.
Yes. That is the difference you're looking for.
Yes. A code and the idea that good is being good is a moral compass to help you.
So that's I was going to give the positive example of Captain America,
but I like yours much better.
But honestly, the priest in Les Miserables, great example.
But a lot of people still saw Captain America as lawful stupid.
I don't know if he was lawful stupid.
That he was to a fault following the rules, and it blinded him at times from seeing what was really going on.
But it kind of didn't.
I don't think it did.
I don't think it did either, because I mean, if you look at especially the first two movies, the First Avenger and Winter Soldier.
Yes.
So in First Avenger, one argument I've heard a lot is that lawful good is not allowed to use stealth ever, because you have to be honorable and upstanding. If you want to fight someone, you knock on their front door and you issue a challenge to them fair and square. And yet, we've got Captain America sneaking into a Hydra base and, waylaying a bunch of guards with stealth. And then in Winter Soldier... Was it Winter Soldier? Yeah, it was Winter Soldier. Where they had those helicarriers and the whole Hydra infiltration and stuff like that. He was the only person not blinded by the fact that this was quote-unquote lawful. He was the one who stood up and said, this may be lawful, but it's not right.
Right.
And
why are we pointing guns at everyone? How does that make it better?
Exactly. Freedom does not come at the end of a gun.
Yep.
Ever.
Yep. Yeah. And there was a Injustice, a new one of the new cartoons that came out. There's a great scene with Superman where he's just like, "You've got to help me get all the guns." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Well, smoking kills." The counter person, I'm trying to remember who it was like, "Smoking kills way more people than guns every year. Should we arrest all smokers?" Mm-hmm. And he goes on from there, and he's just like, "Automobiles kill people every day. Anybody who gets in an accident, they should be taken away as well." Mm-hmm. And he just goes right down, and the final thing he goes, "And those who don't recycle, they should be killed too." Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was like the defiant of like, no, I'm not helping you with this crusade. It doesn't have an end.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So,
all right, let's move on. Chaotic, crazy.
I think you did a good job of defining where it came from.
We can kind of gloss over this one a little bit, real quick, just because a lot of people would like to think it's either the serial killer with no consequences. Right. That's neutral evil.
Correct.
Or a random pixie girls. Oh my god, lol, penguins. Ha ha! I'm so random.
Yeah,
and I hate both of them.
Yeah, and so we start looking at it's neutral equals selfish. Mm-hmm. Chaos just means the rules can be damned and thrown to the side. So the character is going to act how they feel in their own self-interest, regardless of other people, rules, laws, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I think your pick for this one is fantastic. I think Jane from Firefly is a wonderful example of this.
Oh, absolutely.
He is exceptionally selfish, and the rules be damned.
Right.
If we want to go for another stretch, I would say Kuzco from The Emperor's New Groove is very much chaotic because he doesn't follow any rules but his own. The whole world is about him.
Yep.
Yep,
I'll give you that.
And at a whim, he can change his mind. I love him as a character.
Yes, Kuzco alignment. Yes, alignment for Kuzco.
Kuzco specific alignment. The alignment specifically given to Kuzco. Kuzco, yes. That one, yeah, I think that he also fits into that chaotic style. Mm-hmm.
It's like Jane from Firefly. Let's talk about that one a little bit.
They'll tear that one down a little.
So we've got he's wooed over to the group because they paid him.
Yeah,
paid him more than the band. He was part of a group that was holding up the crew of the Firefly, and Mal offered him more money than the bandits were paying him,
and
he literally just switched sides.
Yep,
that was it. That was all it took was a paycheck.
Yep.
Because that's what it's in for.
Yep.
And at one point in the story, spoilers for a very old show, he turns on the group. Because for a moment, it looks like he's got a better option. And he betrays the group. And it's only when Mal corners him and threatens to shove him out of an airlock, and basically tells him, like, the only reason I'm not pushing this button right now is because I think that if I tell you to come back, you're going to be okay. At least until you find another, opportunity to stick a knife in our back. And I'd rather have you here than gone. But I'll do it.
Yeah.
If you ever betray us again.
A more recent one beyond Jane, which I think is a great example, which was just brought up in the live chat. Mm-hmm. Loki. Marvel's Loki. As portrayed in the show, I would tend to agree.
I think that show expressed his journey from chaotic neutral to chaotic good. I think we watched him have that journey.
I don't think he made it to good. I don't think he made it to good.
You don't?
I still think he's...
You don't think that at the end of the show, when he was very panicked about the big bad evil guy doing the big bad evil thing, and he was like, we've got to stop him, does a chaotic neutral character care about stopping the big bad evil guy? Or does he just try to survive for himself?
He is surviving for himself and all the other himselfs.
But yeah, but he cares about his other themselves.
He does, but it's himself. He always looks for number one. He cannot be trusted.
I don't know.
It's hard.
We could debate this one for hours.
But that's the beauty.
But
there's
the
a
beauty.
start point that was clearly chaotic.
Yeah.
That was clearly chaotic neutral. And
even Nox is calling you out. Yeah, trying to save the world isn't good, I guess.
Well, was Red Superman right for saving the world the way he was saving the world?
I don't know who Red Superman is. So
Superman, who was raised in Russia instead of the United States, and letting Russia conquer the planet.
I don't know. I don't know the plot line. So
it's intriguing as all get out. And again, it's all the way you look at it. But that's the whole thing, is we're talking about guideposts. And this prompts those kinds of discussions, but it also gives you a good flavor of where you can begin and how you can help develop your character.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about the darker side of things, so that we can frame those up for storytellers, even, because I'm not saying that you can't do this as a player character. I've technically done it. But I'm saying that it definitely makes it hard. I think the lawful evil character, where we're starting, has more chances to tie into a normal thing, and I think in a lot of ways, there's a lot of players who are lawful evil that don't realize they are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like, a lot of times when I ask people how to play lawful evil, you always get the word lawyer is one of the one of the first 5 words they say to you. And they do evil within the system, and it's like, not really. Like, a lot of people will give you that definition, but then when you ask them, like, what does that look like? They can't tell you. They can't really tell you. Like, if anything, a lawyer is a lawful neutral, in that they're more interested in the letter of the law than how it applies to people, you know? And I think it's not that a lot of people play it wrong, it's just I don't think a lot of people have a clear picture of how to play a lawful evil character. And again, it's not about the actual laws. Just like everything else, it's not about the actual laws, but it's about structure, it's about tradition, it's about codes of honor. And even evil people can have codes of honor. Look at mob bosses, you know? There's a way things are done, just because they're done that way, you know? Look at The Godfather. You know, nobody is going to tell you that Don Corleone ordering his consigliere to cut off the head of a horse and stuff it in the bed of a movie producer. That's not even a neutral thing. That's an actively malicious, murderous thing to do. So, like, Don Corleone, nobody's going to tell you he's a good character. But on the day of his daughter's wedding, when he cannot refuse a request, you know?
Yep.
Why can't he refuse a request on the day of his daughter's wedding?
It's his role.
It's just how things are done.
It's tradition.
It's tradition. It's how things are done.
Yeah.
Lawful, evil.
Yeah.
He's an evil dude who has a way things are done, and he does not vary from them.
Yep.
For him, those rules and structure elevate him over the riffraff. The reason he gets to be evil, the reason he gets to get away with the thing he does and sleep at night and look himself in the mirror, is because he's a man of culture. He has rules. He's not some random thug out shivving people for their wallets on the street corner. He runs a respected family, a respected business. He's a man of wealth and culture and taste. Listen to the orchestral music he has playing. Look at his library filled with many books. They smell of rich mahogany. You know? This is what a lawful evil is.
Equally, they can be eloquent. I honestly believe that lawful evil people can have friends and groups around them. Hannibal Lecter did a fine job of defining what a definitional you'd think was chaotic, but is in fact exceptionally lawful and bound. He followed very strict rules, had a very strict definition of who he was, but without a question was evil. I think that as characters go, for villains specifically, I think the lawful evil character is probably one of the best ways to start a definitional character. Give them strong codes that it's hard for them to break. And if they do break them, they feel tragic about those moments.
Did you watch any of the... I expect the answer to this to be no, just because I know your particular taste. Did you ever watch any of the Hannibal show?
I did not watch any of the Hannibal show. I've seen a few of the different Hannibal movies.
Okay.
So
I watched most of the series. I think I'm only missing like the last half of the last season or something like that, when they started getting into the Red Dragon plotline. But But I think Hannibal Lecter, as played by Mads Mikkelsen, very, very good lawful evil character. Again, a refined gentleman, very articulate, very graceful, liked the finer things in clothes and music and art, had great taste.
Yeah.
For human flesh.
Yeah, and a good Chianti.
And when you started realizing who ended up on his murder and turn your body into art list, it was people who wronged him in some way.
Yeah.
And honestly, that wrong was literally just being rude to him.
Yeah.
Just showing yourself to be a lower class of human being than he expected of common courtesy.
Or even of that person.
Yeah.
Like, if he expected you to be better.
Yeah.
And you disappointed him.
And once you disappointed him, he was like, all right, I guess you're food.
Yeah.
And literally, that was all it took. Just no compassion, no. There was just a dividing line. And once you ended up on the other side of it, he felt nothing for killing you and eating you. But if you're nice to him, super cordial.
Yeah.
Like you remember from Silence of the Lambs, there's that line at the end that Clarice says of like, when it's Hannibal gets out and stuff like that.
And calls her.
And she's like, I don't think he's coming for me. I think he would consider that rude.
Yeah.
Because they've got a dialogue. They're friends.
Yeah.
At least he thinks they're friends.
He thinks enough of her.
He has a respect enough for her that he would consider it uncouth.
Correct.
To kill and eat her.
Correct.
Like that would be a double cross that he couldn't do that.
Yep. We have questions. I want to keep spending time.
Absolutely.
I think we can get these questions. I'm going to make sure that we don't lose our audio here. I would like you to start the questions.
All right. So, do we want to start from the top or the bottom?
I'll let you.
Let's start from the top. It's fine. All right. So, Knox in the Box asks, I figure that if I must use alignments, that I'd want to provide a narrative reason for one so that it feels more like a personal choice and not some game mechanic box I'm ticking. For example, if I had a paladin, I'd create some kind of personal code of honor for them or something. Do you have any other ideas for better disguising a mechanic like this as lore? What are some of your favorite examples? I think you kind of hit the nail on the head right there in your own question of you look at your alignment. For me, at least, I always picked my alignment kind of last. Like I would always get a good idea for who the character was, what place they played in the world, what sort of their outlook on life was, and then picked the alignment that worked best for them.
Yes. I think alignments is one of the most forgotten things with characters and gets developed. I think that more and more players don't have an alignment when they start the game and gain their alignment as they play the game. I think you should have an idea because I think it makes a much better core character.
Oh, absolutely.
So my first thing was, if you don't know, grab yourself the Palladium list, look it over, because that 10-item list will help you, because if you look at it and go, no, that's not this person, no, that's not this person, and you're like, oh, wait, this makes sense. It is kind of a code, but not, because you're not following a code of sense. You're just following your own personal limitations, but the questions are already asked. They're already there for you to define your answers.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real key is, and there, I want to say that it's out there, but I'm trying to remember where it is. There is a 10 question alignment thing that will help define your alignment. But I think what's more important are the questions that they ask. Like, one of the questions is, would you kill for food if you were starving? Would your character kill for food if you're starving? The second question, or one of the other questions, was like, if you heard someone in a well, would you go get help, or would you go help them? Okay, would you sacrifice yourself to go help them?
Sure.
And then there was another one which was, you've received a promotion that you do not deserve because they thought you were the person to get it and it was someone else.
Do you speak up?
Do you rise to the top and carry them with you, or do you say nothing and just accept the offer? And it's things like that you start looking at it like, these questions have already been asked. Whereas most people find that out throughout a story.
Yeah.
So,
and I think the other thing to note too is that regardless of what you write on your character sheet during your session 0, no character ever survives contact with the campaign.
Correct.
And so you may find after 3 sessions that what you thought was going to be a lawful good character is turning out to be a real chaotic neutral. And you know what? That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
That's
It doesn't mean
discovery.
you're doing anything wrong. It just means you're reacting to your environs. You're doing it organically. And what you originally thought in a vacuum was going to look like a lawful good turned out to be a chaotic neutral. Just change your alignment. Just talk to your DM and just change your alignment. You know, it's fine. It happens all the time. I don't think any single character I've ever played has played out with the same attitude that I intended them to. In fact, just before the game here, I was talking about my character in Rob's D&D game, and I was like, I don't think she's neutral good anymore. Like, she has made some really wrathful moves. I definitely think she's inching towards, like, at least true neutral.
No, I agree.
Where she's generally good. She generally wants what's right, but she has such a short fuse now.
Oh, yeah.
And just is so done.
Yeah.
It's just so done.
Yeah.
All right, so the Mad Elf.
Yep.
The Mad Elf asks, what are some mechanics you've run across that provide guidance and/or mechanics for alignment-like aspects of setting boundaries around characters' behaviors, such as Vampire the Masquerade's humanity system comes to mind as one example.
Yeah, 7th Sea has hubris and virtues, which I think give really good, quick definitions of something that you are culpable of. I think some of their advantages in that system are socially defined in there. There's a few other games. I think you were saying that, because I can't think of them right off the top of my head, but Savage World kind of has that within some of its pieces, where you have mechanical aspects that also help define you. I think some of the... what was I thinking? What's the term in Savage World?
The hindrances?
Hindrances.
Yeah.
Help define some of your morality. I know one of my characters will never leave a friend behind. And, I mean, that's straight up an answer that you would put down to say, okay, this is the kind of morality that I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so I think those types of systems are always great. Dungeon World has its bond system, which helps define that as well, because you're not just defining how well you're not defining that you know someone well enough to be a friend, but you're also saying that you have questions about them or insecurities about them. And you have to define what those insecurities are, and I think that really puts it more in perspective and gives you some mechanics that define that.
Yeah. Knox in the live chat is saying he's not familiar with the humanity system, so just real quick, in Vampire the Masquerade, the main... at least it's intended to be the main source of drama is your own internal struggle with the loss of your humanity as you slowly turn into a blood-sucking monster of the night. And how do you kill to eat now, you know? And so what they had was a system called Humanity. It's a 1 to 10 thing, and there was a thing that they've got called a hierarchy of sins.
Yes.
And essentially what that is it's a 10-step thing of like where the line in your morality is drawn. And at 10, it's literally like lying to someone. You know, I mean, it's really, really light stuff that will get you taken down to 9, because you have to be the absolute most goody two-shoes to be a 10.
Yeah.
But then as you start getting down to like 8 and 7 and stuff like that, it's like, are you willing to harm another person to survive? Are you willing to harm another person out of anger? Are you, you know, and it goes down to like, are you willing to just kill people if they get in your way? And on down and down and down. And if you eventually run out of humanity, you become just a feral beast.
Yep.
You literally have slipped into beasthood, and your character is no longer a PC anymore. You're an NPC now.
Yeah, one of the things that came to mind, which I totally forgot about, is 7th Sea's reputation system.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Things will gain you reputation. Things will make you lose reputation. And when you lose enough reputation, you hand in your character sheet because you're now a villain.
Yep.
You have the reputation of a villain.
Yep.
And some of those are like helping victims, not killing somebody in a duel, you know, or allowing someone to live in a duel, you know, or killing someone in a duel. And And all of that changes your reputation and alters you as a person. So in many ways, it is the same kind of thing. It's because, again, 7th Sea is all about being heroes and not being villains.
The thing that I liked about the hierarchy of sins, though, was that it wasn't... Losing humanity wasn't based upon committing the act. It was based upon remorse for the act.
Yes.
And so you could absolutely kill a person by accidentally drinking too much blood from them.
Right.
Drain them completely dry. But after that, when you did something that was below your humanity level, you'd have to make a humanity check, essentially, to see how your character coped with it. Yeah. If you passed it, you are racked with remorse and guilt. You feel bad. You acknowledge the act you did was wrong, and that it was a step too far for you. If you failed that check, your character rationalizes it and is generally okay with having done it, and you lose humanity up to that point. So and I think that's really the important step, is that good people can make mistakes. Good people can do bad things. That doesn't make them a bad person unless they turn around and go, no, that was the right call.
Yeah.
Then you start having conversations about who they are as people.
Yep. All right, next one.
All right,
next one.
It's a bit of a long one, but it's not really a two-parter. It's a question with an explanation.
There we go. Yeah.
From one of our new listeners, Ogdenme. Ogdenme asks, what do you do as a DM when a player character consistently behaves different from their alignment would suggest? A bit of background, since you might talk about this.
We are.
I have a player whose character is often chaotic, mostly neutral, but sometimes evil. His alignment is neutral good. I've talked to him about this: dismissal of local laws, killing anyone who even tries to defend themselves against him, and loots and pillages everything he comes across, often keeping the goods for himself without telling the other party members. And he still insists that he's being, quote, good in his own way, and his dismissal of local statutes is perfectly fine since he's neutral in that axis. In 40 years of DMing, I have always had a player admit that the alignment change and move to either alter the behavior or change their alignment to suit behavior patterns. How do you deal with this? If I'm being perfectly honest, you've already talked to the player about it. You feel they're being chaotic neutral. You're the DM. They are now chaotic neutral. I don't care what they think should be on their character sheet. You're the DM.
That's your story.
It's your story. They're now chaotic neutral.
There you go. Done.
They can be as salty as they want about it, but they're now chaotic neutral.
Yep. There's no better way to define it. I mean, you've made the legal. If it is a mechanic.
Yeah.
As a mechanic, you have the right as a storyteller within the D&D structure to tell them what the ruling is.
It's a loose rule, but it's a rule. And if they're not playing by that rule, you have the right to enforce that rule. You tried to be amicable about it. You tried to talk to the character and negotiate the alignment change. You talk to the player and negotiate the alignment change with them. At this point, if they're still being stubborn about it, just change it on their sheet.
Yep. Or write it down on your own, and when next time they try to do something that aligns with one of those things, like, a protection or something like that, doesn't work the way they think it does.
Yep. Only good characters can act here. Can walk in here. Well, I'm good. You hit an invisible wall.
Yep.
I what? But it says good on my sheet. I know what it says on your sheet. You hit an invisible wall. Sorry.
You believe you're good. You aren't.
Yep. We're all the heroes of our own stories.
That's right.
And I think you put it perfectly in your own question here. Like, he believes he's being good in his own way. Yeah, sure. I'm sure Don Corleone thought he was doing wonderfully by his family.
That's right. That's right.
And there are so many other people that could have filled that crime syndicate vacuum if it weren't for him and his benevolent hand.
Yep. Could have been worse. Could have been so much worse.
Could have been so much worse, but he's here to protect all of you.
I'm going to give you an offer that was never given to me.
Exactly. I'm going to give you an offer you can't refuse.
That's right. So Overwatch asks, Dungeons & Dragons, Palladium, Warhammer Fantasy, all use alignments. Is there one that is your go-to alignment as a player?
Palladium.
Okay.
Sorry.
One you've never played. I don't think I've ever touched Warhammer Fantasy. Is there one that you keep out of your games as a rule?
Oh, now, as far as individual alignments goes, yeah.
So I would say as a rule, I try to personally keep out chaotic evil out of my games, because I don't think a player in a group can possibly be chaotic evil. I
agree.
I think chaotic neutral is hard. I think even chaotic good is challenging to be in a group because you're selfish. You're going to, unless the player can separate themselves from their character and make for a good story, your essence is to be relatively selfish.
I'm okay with chaotic good, because generally your bent is going to be towards heroic, selfless acts. They may be the more kick down the door sort, but like, honestly, Lord Thalian Arroway.
Yeah.
It reads chaotic good to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
Because especially because I have talked to Sean about his character and stuff like that out of game. So
100%.
Even some of his shadier stuff is done with an altruistic, sort of. He's playing the long game, but he is altruistic,
Without a doubt.
and he favors the group and stuff like that. But definitely, he's the I'm just going to do things my way and just going to annoy everybody else to make sure that I'm doing these subtle little power plays to let everybody know that who's really in charge around here.
Oh, no, 100% agree with you, without a doubt. I think it's challenging. It's not that I would blank it out of my game. I'm just saying that it's challenging and often can cause problems unless you can pull it off within the right group.
Yeah.
So
okay, I think to kind of go, one that's my go-to alignment as a player, I love playing Lawful Good. I absolutely love playing Lawful Good because so many people in my life have gone, "You're playing Lawful, stupid," that I take it as a challenge. Dead honest, that's the only reason I love playing Lawful Good, is to prove to other people that it can be done, and to show them how it's done correctly.
Yeah.
And honestly, Lawful Good feels good.
It does.
It feels good to be the moral compass of the group. It feels good to just do right and ask the hard questions about things, and to try to find where hard solutions to hard problems fit into your lawful honor code,
Without a doubt.
outlook of the world.
Yeah. It is a challenge in any setting.
Yeah.
In any setting. But I think that being a lawful evil character in a group can create a very challenging dynamic.
One of my favorite characters was Lawful Evil.
Yep. And I think one of the best parts about that is that, again, that lawfulness is a personal code just as much as it is anything else.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And having a good lawful character, you can have some very, very wonderful moments. Amos from Expanse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Takes the gun from their hand and says, "You're not the person to do this.
You're not a killer.
You're not a killer."
You're not
Lets
that
them
person.
walk out the door, turn back to that person like, "Thank you so much, but I am."
I am
and
that
just,
guy, and shoots him in the
just
head.
shoots
Yep.
him right in the head because he knows who he is. He will be that distance that person needs.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff intrigues the heck out of me. I rarely get a point to be able to play that type of character, but as a storyteller, I have the ability to do it, and I love that.
I don't know if I would classify Amos Burton as lawful evil, but I get where you're going.
Yeah, it's more about
Yeah.
that specific scene
Yes.
that kind of paints that picture for me in my mind.
And just murders the guy in cold blood because he needed to die.
Yeah, he is a fantastic character. There's some great. If you ever get if you're into storytelling like we are, and you really want to dissect a character, there are some great YouTube videos on Amos and dissections of his character, and that go through all of the different scenes he's in throughout the Expanse. And I think as a character, he is one of the most intriguingly well crafted characters that I've ever seen in anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic. All
right, so what's one you'll never play? I mean, chaotic evil aside.
Probably chaotic neutral. I just can't be that selfish.
Okay.
Like, it would grind at me, personally. Like, I would constantly want to... I have a natural affinity to lead, but I think I would struggle with constantly forgetting others. Like forcing
Yeah,
myself as
yeah.
Rob to forget about another person. That would be my struggle.
I see one of my longer played characters was a chaotic neutral.
Okay.
And I kind of got around that by like my self-interest and my group cohesion came from the fact that these were my friends,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked them.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted them around.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't. It was still, looking out for numero uno, and like if a better thing came around, but like they were the best thing at that moment,
Right.
And they continued to be the best thing for a while. So like, yeah, I didn't have any reason to leave.
Right.
I was the Jane of the group, where it's like,
sure.
yeah, no, you guys made me a good offer. This is the place I belong for now.
Right.
And and that next better offer just never came.
Right.
And at a certain point, it was in my self-interest because I liked you.
Mm-hmm.
You were part of my world.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to lose you as part of my world, so it's in my
Right.
self-interest to protect you.
Right.
Yeah.
I have written characters as this.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
very
yeah,
similar
yeah.
to what you were stating there. But I find it hard to do it.
It's a little exhausting. It's a little
It
exhausting
is.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Huluvu's question.
Okay.
I think
Yeah. Huluvu's question, I think, is a tale as old as time here. How do you balance misalignments and other character aspects? For instance, I once played a paladin who, after a few sessions, tried to be lawful good, but was always being pulled in a chaotic direction due to background and storyline. Should I have forced the character to always act lawful good, or allow him to become more chaotic good?
That is the point of a story.
Uh-huh.
Is that discovery right there? There is nothing that says you can't change, and that is legitimately the point of the game, is evolution. Your character evolves, it gains levels.
Mm-hmm.
Your character evolves, it changes style. You evolve your character through roleplay. That's the point. You should be changing alignment, and you should be evaluating your alignment at the very least.
I agree. The only thing I will add to that, too, is kind of countering your question with another question, is this something that you, Hulavu, the player, realized, or is this something your paladin realized?
Yes.
If it's just you, the player, realizing, like, oh, I've been playing this character wrong, or playing this character as a different alignment than is written down,
Right.
then yeah, I think you can make a case for saying maybe I should try playing him more lawful.
Right.
Okay, but I think if your character is realizing that they're not what they thought they were,
Right.
that's a character journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you could make the case for making them chaotic good at
When
that point.
when a mirror is thrown in front of the character and the character makes the recognition that something has changed,
Mm-hmm.
that's the moment of turn. That's the brilliance of a story.
One of those scenes that always sticks with me is the movie Falling Down.
Ah, okay.
There's that scene where he goes to the army surplus shop,
Mm-hmm.
and the neo-Nazi who runs the place starts showing him some like World War II Nazi paraphernalia or something like that, and he's like, "Why are you showing me this?" And he's like, "'Cause we're the same, you and me. You're just like me." And he's like, "I am nothing like you." And it's this real wake-up call for him where he's like, well, I'm going to say wake-up call. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that he doesn't get during that
Right.
movie. But it's a moment where that kind of shocks him out of what he was doing at the time, where he was like, oh, wow, a Nazi thinks I'm like him. Oh, a Nazi thinks I'm like him. No.
Yeah.
You and I are nothing alike.
Yeah.
There
are so many moments in movies where a villain or a higher up henchman looks at one of the heroes and says, "We are the same."
Oh yeah,
I mean,
we're not so different, you and I.
Yeah, it's just a matter of a turn of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
What is it? It was the Joker in
Batman?
the most recent Batman ones. It says something like everyone's just one bad day away from being a villain or something like that.
Yep. And I mean, Darkness says the same thing in Legend.
Mm-hmm.
We are the same. We are one. And he paints a very vivid picture that they are both very similar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she's nothing like him, but she is.
Isn't she though?
She really is.
Yeah. She's
just selfish. And it's those types of things, it's those moments where you can have either as a storyteller where you can present that mirror reflection of what you've become to the player, and they suddenly recognize it. It comes out to them. There was a point in the development of Fable, the video game Fable. And if you've played Fable, you know that you can go a good path or an evil path, and there's things you can do, and it changes the look of your character. In the development of that game, one of the moments in development the developer said was, until you see yourself in a reflection, you don't change.
Oh.
You never perceive the difference. But the moment you walk by water or a mirror or like ice or something like that, and you see that version of yourself, that is the changed version.
That's cool.
And I was like, that would have been an incredible difference.
Yeah.
Putting reflection in are never an easy thing to do in a game, especially persistent ones. So that's always a challenge. But think of the storytelling aspects of that, of what you're actually doing. Like, oh no, now I see the evil that everyone else sees. Mm-hmm. Ooh, there's another game, and I want to say it's like Mirror or something, where the protagonist, as they do their actions, just continues playing the game. At certain points in the game, there are cinemas from other people's perspectives, and you get to see the world as they see it. The changes. And you haven't seen that. Like, you still see your town as this little simple town with general people in it and everything going fine. But but if you've been a thief and you've been doing terrible things, the town is more seedy. The people that you've been helping are now in power doing terrible things.
Yeah.
You know, it changes the city, but you don't notice that because it's just outside of your view. Mm-hmm. And it's like, ooh, I've been doing that.
I've been playing Undertale lately.
Yeah,
Finally got around to playing Undertale, and it kind of does the same thing. Where like if you start killing your way through that game, like you go into a shop, and instead of being greeted with a smiling rabbit girl that wants to sell you hamburgers or whatever, there's just a note on the door that says, "Please don't kill my family." Mm-hmm. And at one point, like Undyne, the captain of the Royal Guard,
yes,
who will relentlessly pursue you and try to kill you through any playthrough of that game.
Yeah.
Though she can be made friends with, which is what I did first off.
Yep.
Gives you this big speech if you are doing a No Mercy run where you're killing all the characters. And when you listen to that speech that she gives you about like how everybody's hearts are beating as one right now, I can sense all of my friends behind me. You human, no. Whatever you are, I will defeat you if it's the last thing I do. And you realize it's the hero giving the speech to the villain.
Yeah.
And that's you. You're the villain.
Yeah.
You know, it's rough.
So I'm gonna leave with a question here
that
was in live chat, and that is, which alignments would and would not hold the door open for you?
Lawful good will hold the door open for you because it's the right thing to do. Neutral good will also hold the door open for you because it's the right thing to do. Chaotic good will hold the door open for you even if the door says, please do not hold open. Lawful neutral will hold it open for you if it's not going to inconvenience anyone around you, and if there are no other signages saying not to.
Yep.
True neutral will...
Maybe.
I don't know, maybe.
If it's feasible.
Chaotic neutral will let the door hit you.
Yeah.
Because screw you.
Yep.
Lawful evil will hold the door open for you, especially if it inconveniences one of their enemies. Neutral evil will not notice you.
Yep.
To hold the door open for you, and chaotic evil will hit you with the door.
I love it.
So, speaking of villainous behavior, our next week's topic is building a better villain, the villain's journey, and what that all looks like from the opposite side of the heroic table. You can find us on Twitter at @ST_Conclave, on Instagram at @ST_Conclave. Listen to us live every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we record live on mixlr.com/storyteller-conclave, and join us on our Discord. Thank you to all of our new members. Join us our discussion, ask us some questions. You can find that link on Twitter, as well as our website, storytellerconclave.com.
We'd like to thank our Patreon members, especially our name members, Knox in the Box, Sam, the Arcane Asylum, Sparkle Motion Veteran, and Hulavu. Thank you ever so much. Our pre-show music is by Arcane Anthems. You can find that at patreon.com/Arcane Anthems. Our intro music, which is Beyond the Warriors, is by Geefrog. You can find that at geefrog.bandcamp.com or on Google Music. And our outro music, which you're hearing right now, is Only Our Footprints in the Sand by Midair Machine. You can find that at freemusicarchive.org.
And a big shout out, as always, to our families, Vicky and Sean. Thank you so much for loving and supporting us. All of our friends who've sat with us at our tables over the years to give us these great stories to tell you about badly played alignments. And you, every single one of our listeners, we love you so much.
Love
Stay
you guys.
safe.
Good night.
Good night.